This is your one and only FireSpark81 with your daily dose of video goodness, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Freeform Friday, where we play some random video game, and today's game is Subnautica Below Zero. So just a heads up, this is going to be a little bit different than what you guys are normally used to for Freeform Friday. This is kind of like a little mini review, just something new that I'm trying here. So anyway, let's get to it.
Approaching 45-46 feet. Surface temperatures. Drop pod deployed.
I bought Subnautica Below Zero a few weeks ago in anticipation to make a bunch of guides for the upcoming release. I was excited to jump into it for the first time and get myself acclimated to the game. However, that excitement quickly waned and I lost all motivation to play, let alone make guides. In this mini review, I want to talk about why I think that happened and share my experience with you to maybe help inform you so you can decide if Subnautica Below Zero is going to be the experience you are looking for. I jumped into Below Zero expecting a fresh experience that still felt like Subnautica. I really enjoyed the first Subnautica and loved how it had horror vibes without being horror themed, and how alone it made you feel at times. It was just you alone in a vast ocean with massive sea creatures. It's a masterpiece of a game. Below Zero starts off just like the original, with a crash. You're left out in the cold and you have to seek shelter quickly. At first, I was like, okay, we're doing the whole crash thing again. But then when I was on land, because you crash on land instead of the water, and had these new cold mechanics, I thought, okay, this is like the breath mechanics in the first one, but new. I could get into this. Being on land is short-lived though, as you are quickly driven back into the water. And the game then begins to play out exactly like the first one. This is the point where I immediately started to lose interest, but I continued to push on, hoping I would find some new item or tool that would bring back that wow factor. But there was nothing new. You still discover items the exact same way you did in the first one. Many of the items are the exact same with no improvements, no new features. For example, I found the floating air pump to be basically useless in the first Subnautica. So I thought in this one, there may have been improvements made to it that would make it more useful. At one point, I needed O2 in an area where I kept running out. So I figured I would give the floating air pump a try and see if anything had changed, if it was actually useful now. Imagine my disappointment when I quickly discovered it was the exact same as it is in the first one. So after this, I decided to jump into creative mode and just explore all the crafting and see what new things have actually been added. And I'm not going to get into a lot of detail to avoid spoiling things for people, but I will tell you it's not much. There are a few new tools that look like they were added for specific story events to help drive the story forward, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. One thing I will point out that was added, and very much an improvement that will not spoil any of the story for those who choose to purchase the game, is the control room for your base. This room allows you to see your base's hull integrity along with power production and consumption, as well as allowing you to name your base and change the colors on it. This is an absolutely fantastic addition to Subnautica, and I would have loved to see more creative and fun stuff like this. You do get two new vehicles in Below Zero. There is no Seamoth and there is no Sub. The first one is the Sea Truck. This new vehicle replaces the Seamoth and the Sub from the first game. It's basically a modular Seamoth. It allows you to attach different modules onto the back of it for whatever you need in a specific situation. Plan to go farming for mats? Stick a bunch of storage modules onto it. Want a mobile home? Stick the sleeper module onto it. I like the idea of the Sea Truck, but also miss the ability to build inside of it like you could the Sub in Subnautica 1. The other new vehicle is the Snow Fox, which is just a hover bike for when I assume at some point the story drives you back onto land. Then of course we still have the Prawn Suit, which is identical to the one in Subnautica 1 minus a few modules. The Prawn Suit in Subnautica 1 has a few extra modules that the Prawn Suit in Below Zero does not have.
This is the farthest that I can take you on company space bucks, Robin. You sure you want this? The research isn't everything.
It is to me. And Sam. I need to know what happened.
One thing I did notice right away in Below Zero is it seems to be way more story-driven than the first Subnautica. There is loads of voice acting, and you run into other characters rather fast. Unlike in Subnautica 1, where you had to slowly piece together bits and pieces of the story in a sandbox environment, Below Zero feels almost guided. I can't get into much more detail than that without spoiling things, but I will say this is not necessarily a bad thing, and it does create a feeling of newness. However, I feel this drastically reduces the horror vibe that the first game had. In the time that I spent with the game, I never felt alone or scared. At one point, a rather large squid shark did grab my sea truck from behind and gave me a bit of a jump scare on stream, but I never had that feeling you get when you are on a boat and you imagine looking down over the side into the water and you see just this huge open mouth coming at you. Subnautica 1 constantly gave me that feeling. I think part of this is because I don't feel as lost and alone in Below Zero as I did in Subnautica 1. And that's due to the more story-driven feel of Below Zero, which maybe that's what the devs were going for in this one, and that's fine. It's just not really the experience that I was expecting from a Subnautica game. For me, Subnautica Below Zero is just more of Subnautica 1 with a lot of things that sucked me into Subnautica 1 missing. I was really hoping for the same experience of Subnautica 1, but in a new way with new tools and new tech, with maybe some older tech sprinkled in but upgraded. While there are a few, and I mean a few new toys, and a new story, and a host of new flora and fauna mixed in with some familiar faces, I'm looking at you, peeper and bladderfish. I see you. It just doesn't have that spark Subnautica 1 had. So if you're one of the people who really enjoyed the lore and the story of Subnautica 1, this is sure to be a hit for you. But if you're like me and really got into the survival aspect of the game and that new kind of horror feel the original had, this one may be a miss for you. I'm a huge fan of the first game, and I think it was one of the best games of the decade. So I'm not going to give up on Below Zero. I fully plan to play through it, and I hope that at some point it captures me the way the first one did in the first 5 minutes. I hope this video has helped you to better understand what Below Zero is bringing to the table, and if you want some more Subnautica action, be sure to sub and hit the bell and all the things, so you can be notified when the first episode of the Subnautica Below Zero Let's Play drops. Alright, before we wrap up this video, I just gotta give a massive thank you and shout out to my supporters on Patreon for making this episode possible. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to join my elite crew of Patreon supporters, please check out the link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.